Hello, hello. This is Irene with Saugatalks. Hello, everyone. I am having a fantastic day today because Peter Evans is here with me today. But before we get into fabulous topic we announced, please, 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 please subscribe and follow and share the links that you like because we need this audience to know the fantastic guests, the fantastic expertise. My guests are so generous, sharing their experiences, sharing their time. So let's do something to help out in a way that more people will get to know what we're talking about and more people will start a new career, will make their business successful, and so on and so forth. So please, please, please help us out. This is Irene, Saugatalks. Peter, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I love your energy today, Irene.
This is my energy that never, never falters because you know what? The people I meet, the speakers I get, the topics we get to discuss here on Soga Talks. Why don't we start somewhere? Peter, you're an expert, you're a world-renowned author. I am a huge fan of yours. I read your LinkedIn articles. I'm gonna probe you on some because hey, the strategy around Web3, Metaverse, around platform economy and experience economy. Oh my goodness, sky is the limit. So let's start somewhere. How do you see platform economy and experience economy taking off these days?
So that's a great question. The platform economy has been around for a while. It really took off, with the internet and the ability to connect people. Platforms have been around for a long, long time, but it's really the internet and connectivity and, of course, smartphones and things like that that really enabled platforms, especially to grow and scale. So that's kind of the foundation. Now, what's happening now is really interesting is that the platform economy is beginning to merge with the experience economy. So we've always had experiences, and companies have realized you can gain more customers and build greater loyalty when you engage customers with experiences. But now we can blend and combine platforms and experiences so that you can get that scale, but still that intimacy, that engagement with the experiences. So I've been looking now at this blend of, or this integration or connections between the platform economy and the experience economy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right to point out, right? The platform of the word is not new, right? But what's happening now when we collide the terms, the meaning, and the promise of Web3? Okay, can you walk us through of your observations? What's happening out there in the business world, in the tech world? That technology becoming a little more accessible, the
Well, well
barrier
now
of entry a little more easier. Mhm.
Sure. Well, now you're complicating things a little bit because we have the platform economy and the experience economy. And just some examples of experience platforms. Airbnb was matching people with accommodations, but then they realized that when people go to Rome or they go to Bangkok, they want to do more than just stay in the house or the room that they're renting. They want to experience the place. So Airbnb realized, oh, we should create an experience platform. So they match people who do tours, to do cooking, to do adventures, all sorts of things with people who are traveling to these locations. So they have this thing called Airbnb experiences. But that's just one. There's, for example, if you go to the UK and you have a weekend free, you can go onto Richard Branson's website, which is called Virgin Experience Days, and they have a huge platform with a bunch of different experiences, not provided by Virgin. This is platform strategy, right? So they develop an ecosystem of experience providers. So you can go to a racetrack and drive in a sports car on a weekend, or you can go, in a hot air balloon. There's all sorts of experiences on that platform. So those are just two examples, and there are more than 100 now experience platforms all over the world. Now, you asked me about Web3. Things are getting even more interesting when you bring in blockchain and NFTs, because brands are realizing they can use NFTs now as a way to engage customers. And what they do is they bundle the experience often as part of the NFT. So Dolce & Gabbana did an NFT, and it had an amazing actual physical jacket that they made, and they had a digital asset, but they also combined it with an experience, which was being able to go to an exclusive fashion show, right, as part of the NFT. So we're now seeing, examples of really interesting integrations between the platform economy, the experience economy, and this whole new world of Web3 and tokenization.
Brands looking right now how to improve that customer experience. So you brought some examples, but still so many other brands that outside of maybe retail world.
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
they
So
still testing the waters.
yeah, so another example is a lot of brands now are beginning to file for trademark protection in the metaverse. And so that's enabling them to position to be able to deliver digital experiences. So one example is McDonald's. They filed for trademark protections in the metaverse, and there's speculation that they're going to have stores there, right? You can drop into a McDonald's virtually. And then because of the way that logistics have built up over the last decade, you can actually have that virtual visit translate into actual physical delivery of a hamburger at your house. So we're going to see this online, offline, real life, and kind of metaverse and Web3 kind of applications blend together in all sorts of interesting ways.
Inevitably. Inevitably. You know what? I am so privileged to speak with a lot of leaders, lots of bright people in the industry these days. And metaverse comes out in every conversation. You start talking about talent, you start talking about future of work, automation, artificial intelligence, metaverse is right there. All right. So this is amazing. It's unfolding in front of our eyes. And yet we have a lot of questions. So why don't we connect, Peter, this for business leaders? Because this talk is for those who define strategies, who plan the company's growth. So metaverse and Web3, where some of the traditional industries can find their ground, you think?
So, wow, that's a big question. But a project that I've been following recently, which is pretty interesting and exciting, is they're bringing back the DeLorean car. I don't know if you remember the DeLorean, right? Very famous car that was built way back in the 1970s. So it's been 40 years since that car was manufactured. They're bringing it back, but this time, in order to get that car, you actually have to buy an NFT. And that NFT gives you basically a slot in the production of that vehicle. So let's say you get access to that NFT, and that NFT may be 310. That means that you will get the 310th car that comes off the assembly line when that car is produced in 2024. So the car hasn't been made yet. There's a prototype that they just unveiled last month, actually, in Pebble Beach. There's going to be a marketplace, i.e. a platform, in which people can get access to the NFTs. That's going to be opened in October. And then people who want to keep it can hold that NFT. But if you decide to sell it, there's going to be a marketplace in which you can put your NFT up for sale. And that means somebody else can come in and potentially buy your slot in the production of the vehicle. Now it gets even more interesting because DeLorean is a famous, iconic car. And if you can remember the famous movie Back to the Future, and there have been lots of derivative kind of assets, both physical, but also digital. So there are a number of DeLorean games. So you can imagine that DeLorean is going to create an avatar of the vehicle. So not only will you potentially get a physical car, but you also may get an avatar or a digital rendering of that car that can then be brought into games in the metaverse. And so that becomes another way to engage fans, but also to generate a revenue stream for the company launching it. It's called the DeLorean Motor Company. And so there's lots of ways that you can have combinations of physical assets and digital assets to engage and generate revenue for your company.
That sounds all wonderful, Peter. Absolutely. And I'm looking at your article right now. You are a very prolific writer on Cointelegraph. Okay. I don't know if you recall that you posted article there this year about rising demand for Web3 savvy data analysts. So I want to turn this conversation a little bit in how
Sure.
companies should plan their strategies around talent, because those are specialists, they're hard to find. Everyone's just learning right now.
That is definitely true. And I helped a startup. I was the chief platform officer for a startup in the NFT space. And what became very clear is that because it's new, it's very difficult to match supply and demand. You don't know how many NFTs to produce. You don't know exactly what the demand is going to be. So gathering and analyzing the data related to these drops or auctions becomes very important, and that's where data analysts can be very helpful. There's conversion, right? There are what do you call it? The crypto passionate people, but they're a pretty small group. The question is how do you catch the broader audience? And it could be sports fans, it could be music fans, it can be fashion fans. It depends on the groups. But right now, we have this core group that's very interested in this space and very knowledgeable. But then you have the broader public. And a big challenge is how do you convert and get mass adoption? And so having a good data analyst can really help figure out how to target promotions and what those conversion rates are, so that you have a good idea of where to spend your resources to attract people to your platform and to your NFT projects and collections.
Yep. And of course, the knowledge organization has or people have about digital transformation, I would say the closest roles to those data analysts that will help companies with Web3 will be their in-house talent. You mentioned analysts. I would put even marketeers, okay? I would put those who used to look at your marketing performance at a lot of tools, okay? Those will be able to analyze and help you with your Web3 venture, don't you think?
Yeah. And so finding people that have marketing skills, right? That's not so difficult, but people who understand marketing in the Web3 context, that is harder. And so, companies are looking now, but there's been actually quite a number of companies that have popped up that specialize in this space. I call them NFT platform solution providers. And so typically brands don't build their own platforms. What they do is they rely on third parties that have begun to specialize in this space. And there are trade-offs, associated with that. You don't want to give all your data and all of your community engagement to a third party. So brands need to think strategically about what makes sense to outsource to a third party and what you need to keep as core to your business.
A platform economy, again, to me, experience economy and creator economy have come together, because in my own journey as podcaster, there's so many talks about marketplaces, because every podcast becomes this community that will generate certain experiences for listeners and become the marketplace if you want to monetize somehow. So do you see that convergence at all? Because this is also new and very exciting.
Totally. And that's why understanding how platforms operate from a variety of perspectives. You're speaking now from the creator's perspective, and there's a growing number of opportunities to build your own business and your own income stream by being an independent creator in ways that was impossible even 10 years ago. The costs of broadcasting, like we are doing right now, have dropped dramatically. And then the platforms are positioning to be able to reward creators, because the more creators that are on their platform, the more users or viewers that they can attract. And so really one of the key goals from a platform perspective is how do you create what they call the flywheel or the network effects, right? Which is the more users come, the more value is created, which attracts more users, which creates more value. And so really the strategy is to figure out how do you get that flywheel operating so that your platform grows and scales. And that's what everybody's chasing right now in the Web3 space, right? Is how do you find those opportunities to grow those platforms and create that flywheel? Now they're macro effects, right? Now we're seeing what they call the crypto winter. And so some of the huge attention to Web3, some of the platforms, we've seen a massive decline in the number of interactions or transactions on the platform. That means your flywheel's going in reverse. And if it goes into reverse, that can create a downward spiral that you can grow really quickly, but you can also you can decline very quickly as well. And so we're seeing some platforms, challenged right now, pretty challenged.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they rise up, as you mentioned, very quick, and they fall down
You fall
as
down.
quick. Oh my goodness. So when
Yeah.
you work with your clients, Peter, okay, what kind of strategy advice you giving in a way that which platform to pick? Because they don't have big room for experimentation. Okay. The businesses mid-size and big, you know where I'm getting with it.
Sure, sure. So, there's some really interesting strategic questions. Do you go with a generalist platform, right? Like OpenSea, which has music, art, all sorts of different kinds of digital assets on the platform? Or do you specialize and go vertical, right? And specialize in just sports or just in platforms that do music or just fashion? And so we see that there's kind of a split that's interesting. You find that the luxury companies tend to go with the specialized vertical platforms, whereas the mass brand companies tend to go with the more generalist platforms. So we see kind of a difference in depending on kind of who their market is. Is it more exclusive with variants? Some of these platforms are dealing like Sotheby's and Christie's, and some of these have gotten into this NFT space and created auctions. They're operating, with costs. It could cost $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 per NFT, or even more, right? Lamborghini, for example, auctioned an NFT, and I think the highest priced NFT went for $240,000. So those are the very high price. Then you have others like Burger King or Gap or AMC, which is a big movie chain, right? They own lots of movie theaters. They have very low cost, and some even do free NFTs. So Pepsi, for example, gave away free NFTs. The other thing that's interesting is not only do you have static NFTs, but we're seeing a growing number of brands experiment with dynamic NFTs. So Tom Brady has a platform, the famous football player, used to be with the Patriots. Now I forget where he is, but he has a platform called Autograph, and he's just released NFTs that have his physical appearance, but also all sorts of what they call IRL, in real life experiences with that. So you have the potential to actually meet Tom Brady potentially, or go to a football game, right? So they're going to have these in real life experiences. And I don't know exactly all the dynamics, but they've announced that your NFTs are going to kind of respond to his stats for this season. So, if he plays really well, maybe the NFT gets more enriched, but if he doesn't play as well, so it's going to be very interesting. I think they haven't told us all the details, but these kinds of interactive and engaging, they're almost gamified tokens, right? So you can have games that relate to the platform and the rules of how you engage and play the game, but the tokens themselves, because they're on smart contracts, can be programmed and be dynamic themselves. So you have a lot going on from a strategies perspective. You have token design, but you also have platform design, and the two interact. So brands have a lot to think about when they get into this space if they really want to be successful.
What I heard from you, I just play it back and see how that sounds. That there is no magic bullet, because brand will have to know who they are very, very well before starting that journey. Because again, you have to really understand your customers. It's not the old kind of formula, know your customers, know your audience, right? You have to really know what works for you, because again, I'm seeing NFTs as a tool
Yeah,
to
well, that's
engage
true.
better. Yeah.
Another approach is to experiment, right? And you know that some aren't going to do as well and they may fall flat. But I do believe there's a lot of evidence that this is a mega trend. It's not just a one off and it's going to disappear, that there's just so much functionality and creativity and innovation that can go into token design and this whole Web3 space. So I think the signs are that a lot of brands are beginning to look at this space. There's at least 40 or 50 major brands that have launched some kind of NFT project. And some of them, as I mentioned, go with the big general platforms. Others have gone very exclusive. And like Lamborghini, you know, they designed their own platform. And I think DeLorean will also do that. But the big general plan, the brands, they will probably go to a different kind of platform structure. So thinking about the costs and benefits of doing that. And then we haven't even talked about community yet, which is a whole nother dimension, which is how do you engage these people once they buy these assets, and not just, you know, entertain them, but actually in some cases you can ask them to contribute. Just like you did at the beginning of this webcast, you asked people to subscribe to your channel, right? And even better if they promote the channel, right? By tweeting about it or something like that. Brands can do the same thing. They can create a challenge and say, listen, if you guys tweet out this and 10,000 people come to our platform, we will reward you with these kinds of things. And so that's pretty interesting. Another is what I call participate to create, which is you can actually ask the fans to participate in the creation with an artist. And what's pretty cool is that the artist can decide to take that and then resell it or put it back on the market and claim it as their own. But they also could give credit to the fans for helping them to create it. So I've seen instances where artists have given co-production credits to their fans, which is pretty interesting. So that creates even a stronger bond between the fans, which are consumers, right? And the artists, which creates, you know, a whole nother level of engagement that really wasn't possible before this kind of Web3 emerged in the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And I hear more and more from the resources I follow, from the people I speak with. We all owe it to ourselves at least to learn, okay, to get to know. And if your business, your company is not quite ready yet, there are specialists out there who know little more to reach out. So I absolutely encourage everyone, you know, to find Peter. He is very prolific writer. He posting his knowledge on LinkedIn, very generous with his knowledge. So sure, I will link, Peter, your profile or anything else you want me to link in this video, because this is the creator economy. We are helping each other and hopefully making the world a little bit better, you know, from every
one
angle.
of my pet peeves is this notion to fail fast. I think that's bad advice. I actually think do things and then pivot when you see that the thing that you're doing isn't working, and look for other ways that it can be applied and what you've learned can be reused in new areas. So don't fail fast, pivot fast.
Good. Wow. Pivot fast. You know, I'm making mental notes here. Yeah. Good. Embracing opportunities. We claimed it in the title of this talk. So embracing opportunities, where do you think, I don't know, some examples of low-hanging fruit?
Yeah, well, if you're not engaged in platforms, that would be the foundation, right? Really understand how we live in a platform economy now. 15 years ago, it was a novel idea and very few companies were engaged. But now everywhere we look, there are platforms. There's even dog walking platforms, right? If you need help walking your dog, there's a platform called Rover where you can do that. And then there are very sophisticated, complex platforms like Schneider Electric, which provides energy efficiency solutions and zero carbon solutions for companies trying to reduce their emissions. They help bundle and aggregate lots of renewable supply to be able to deliver clean energy. So the platform world ranges broadly. And so I think that's number one is get people on your team if you don't have them already. who understand how platforms operate. They're pretty fundamental economic dynamics that come into play. And then there's organizational and governance. And then recently, more and more regulatory issues with data become important. So pulling all these pieces together. And then, as I mentioned earlier, not just delivering goods and services, but also thinking about experiences as a way to engage and reward customers. And so there are platforms now that specialize in that. There was a recent announcement by Starbucks that they're redoing their loyalty program that's going to look at digital assets. They're recognizing that it's not just your home, your work in Starbucks, what they call the third place, as being a physical place. It's also going to be a digital place. Blending all these things together can really differentiate a company and put them at a competitive advantage as we move into this new world of digital and metaverse. And, it's pretty exciting, all the things that are happening.
To add to that, with all the benefits you listed, it's also attracting the best talent. It's attracting new generations as the customers, as employees, as your partners, and just generating more excitement around the business. So isn't it a fantastic way to do so?
Well, as I write a Substack newsletter called Platform Professional, and what's become pretty clear is that going to business school is good. You can get a good job, but if you combine business school with a deep understanding of platforms, you're incredibly well positioned to have an exciting career. There are just hundreds and hundreds of jobs now that where companies are looking for people with specific marketplace and platform related talent. I track these. I just wrote an article about companies in Europe that are looking for platform talent. And in the United States, BlackRock, for example, has a job out right now for a platform professional. Bridgestone, the tire company, is they're building a platform team right now. Because they're looking at opportunities in the automotive space for marketplaces and building an ecosystem that can provide more services to customers, right? And so the automotive sector is changing dramatically. Most people don't think of NFTs and automotive companies together, but there's actually quite a number of companies that are in the automotive sector that are experimenting in this space because of, the connected car, new ways to shop online while you're in your vehicle. And then as we move to EVs are all about networks and platforms. You need to have charging stations. And so an interesting announcement is Starbucks just announced a corridor between Denver and Seattle in which they're going to put charging stations at Starbucks stores. And so you think about charging your electric vehicle, it takes longer than pumping gas, and you don't have the smell and kind of the nastiness of your old style filling station. It's going to be clean. And so anyway, companies like Starbucks are looking at building out charging networks so that they can attract people who need to recharge the vehicle and upsell them things that Starbucks do, right? Which is obviously coffee and
brilliant idea. Spend time, right? Interact with whoever and do your work maybe, or do whatever important to you at that moment while consuming Starbucks products.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
So most people don't think about EVs and platforms together, but totally possible. Another space that I'm super interested in is how do you reward people for coming to an event in an electric vehicle? So why not issue them an NFT? Hundreds, millions of people go to sporting events and concerts every year. What if those companies that sponsored those events issued people NFTs if they come in an electric vehicle? You could do cross-marketing campaigns with companies that are trying to get people to buy electric vehicles. So I think you said low-hanging fruit, yes, but what I think is more interesting are complex integrations that happen between companies that typically don't talk to each other. Like Live Nation, which is the largest festival promoter in the world, millions of people 70 million people this year will buy tickets to Live Nation shows. Imagine if Live Nation did a cross-marketing campaign with a big automaker and said, hey, let's do a deal. We'll reward people who buy your car with special benefits if they come to our events, because people buy a car actually to do things like go to a concert to see their favorite artist. So, and then the artists are under pressure to do green events. So there's tremendous synergies that could be created by designing and creating the right platform that bring together these different use cases into a bigger use case that is also good for the planet, right? We're going to need to transition to a cleaner energy world. So let's get people who are excited, young people who want to go to a concert, and reward them for going in a green vehicle.
First of all, thank you so very much. Fantastic talk. I totally get it, how you work with clients in a way that assessing their strength, what their selling points, what make them the business, and really advising on combining, that energy with other brands they could not even think about before.
Exactly.
So amazing times. Wow, this is exciting.
Beautiful thing is that the platforms exist to be able to do this at scale. So big companies, if it's not 500 million or $1 billion, they don't have time for it. So you really need to come to the table with really big, important ideas that can move the needle, right? Which is very different from the way people currently kind of focus on the NFT marketplace, which are these PFPs and kind of, I don't know, they're smaller, interesting, but I think the big opportunities are when big companies come into play, and they have lots of resources and already huge customer bases in the millions and millions of people.
The real potential in the volume, that's what I hear, right? The volume of transaction, the volume of engagement, right? And how to even multiply. Yeah, wow. This is energizing. Absolutely. Peter, thank you so much for this talk today. Why don't we leave the audience with few takeaways?
Sure.
Because we did discuss a lot of angles to the opportunities there. So Web3, Metaverse, we said platform economy, experience economy. Few takeaways, please.
It's hard to take all of this in at once. You have to sort of build towards it. So I would start with platforms, really understand how platforms work, how network effects work, how you grow scale, solve things like chicken and egg problems that are common to platforms, and then understand how they can integrate with others. So I think understanding platforms and then the platform to platform integrations are super interesting, and there's lots of opportunities in those spaces. And then start thinking about how those can be tokenized. And that's where the Web3 comes in, using blockchain technology, because it opens up new ways to create incentives for exchange, but also reward contributions for things that otherwise wouldn't be rewarded. So fans that help you create or help you promote your brand or your activities, right? And so tokens and awarding them tokens can be a way to incentivize them to do that more. So we're going to see solutions that emerge that really bring all of these features together in exciting ways. And, we're all human and we want great experiences. So don't think about platforms just as exchanging goods and services, but also how you can blend them with unique experiences that's really what people energizes them and gets them to be your really loyal, what they call super fans.
Amazing. You helped me, Peter, in this short talk, okay? You already restructured some of my thinking. Incredible. I'm sure the audience find the value in this. Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's wonderful being on your show.